The sky above the city was a clear blue with the sun shining brightly. People walked on the busy streets going about their daily lives. Cars moved back and forth and children laughed in the parks. It was just another ordinary day on Earth. But not everyone was ordinary. Far above, hidden from the eyes of most humans, a small ship moved quietly through the atmosphere. It was smooth and shiny, shaped like a teardrop, and it carried a visitor from a distant world. Inside the ship sat Lyra, an alien girl with bright, curious eyes. Her skin was a soft shade of lavender, and her hair shimmered like the stars. She had come from a planet far away, a place very different from Earth. Her people were advanced in technology but had never met humans before. Lyra's heart raced as the ship landed gently near the city's edge. She looked out at the world below, so full of life, noise, and color. She had heard stories about humans and their strange ways. What fascinated her most was how humans could fill things, gaps, needs, or problems in ways no one else could. Her mission was simple: to learn how humans did this. But Lyra was not just curious. She hoped to bring this knowledge back to her people, whose world was slowly falling apart because they could not fill their own empty spaces. The ship's door opened with a soft hiss. Lyra stepped out, her feet touching the grass for the first time. The air smelled fresh and alive. She took a deep breath and began walking toward the city. Not far away, Sam was finishing his work in a small workshop. He was a human engineer, known for fixing things others thought impossible. When he saw the strange ship land, his eyes widened in surprise. Before he could react, a soft voice called to him. "Please," the voice said. "I need your help." Sam turned and saw Lyra standing there, her eyes shining with hope and fear. She looked fragile but determined. "I am Lyra," she said. "I have traveled far to learn about humans, to learn how you fill." Sam blinked. "Fill? What do you mean?" Lyra smiled gently. "How humans find ways to fix what is broken, to make something whole again. How you find strength when there is none. I want to understand this, to help my people." Sam looked at her carefully. It was not every day an alien came asking for help like this. "All right," he said slowly. "Show me what you want to learn." Lyra's eyes brightened. "Thank you." Together they walked into the city. Sam began to explain how humans faced challenges every day, from small problems to huge disasters. He told her about people helping each other, sharing, and never giving up. As they walked, Lyra noticed how people smiled despite hard times. She saw workers fixing broken machines, neighbors helping elderly people, and children playing joyfully even in poor neighborhoods. "It's like you have a light inside," Lyra said softly. "A light that fills the dark." Sam nodded. "Maybe we do." Their first stop was a construction site where workers were rebuilding after a storm. Sam introduced Lyra to a team repairing a collapsed bridge. "Watch how they work together," Sam said. "Each person fills a role. No one can do it alone." Lyra watched as the workers lifted heavy beams, measured carefully, and communicated with skill. She could feel the energy and trust between them. After a long day, Sam and Lyra sat by a small cafe. Lyra looked tired but happy. "You humans do many things to fill gaps," she said. "But I want to see more. Show me how you fill when the world feels empty." Sam thought for a moment. "Come with me tomorrow. I will take you somewhere special." Lyra's eyes shone with excitement. "I will be ready." As the sun set, Lyra felt a strange feeling inside, a mixture of hope and fear. She had come to Earth looking for answers, but she was beginning to realize that learning to fill was more than just fixing things. It was about finding strength, courage, and heart. The journey was only beginning. The morning sun peeked over the horizon, casting a soft glow on the city. Birds sang in the trees, and the air smelled fresh with the promise of a new day. Lyra woke up early, feeling a mix of excitement and nervousness. Today, Sam was going. to show her more about how humans fill, not just with tools or machines, but with something deeper. She met Sam outside his workshop, where he was already waiting with a small pack of supplies. "Ready?" he asked, smiling. Lyra nodded, eagerly. "Yes, I want to learn everything." Sam led her through busy streets filled with people heading to work, school, and shops. They walked quietly, but Lyra's eyes were wide with wonder. She noticed small acts everywhere. A man helping a woman carry heavy bags, children sharing, toys and friends laughing together. "Humans fill many things," Sam said as they walked. "Sometimes it's with actions, sometimes with kindness or hope." Their first stop was a hospital, a place Lyra had heard about but never seen. The building was large and busy, filled with people who were tired but determined. Nurses and doctors moved quickly, helping patients with gentle care. "Here," Sam explained, "humans fill the need for healing. When bodies or minds are hurt, people come together to help." Lyra watched as a nurse comforted a child who was scared. She saw doctors working late into the night to save lives. The hospital was a place where people gave their time and energy, without asking for anything in return. "It is like a heart that never stops beating," Lyra said softly. "Yes," Sam agreed. "It's one way humans fill the gaps." Next, Sam took Lyra to a shelter for people who had lost their homes. The place was simple but full of warmth. Volunteers handed out food, blankets, and smiles. Despite their troubles, the people inside supported each other. Lyra saw how the community worked together to rebuild their lives. They shared stories, laughter, and hope. Even in hard times, humans found ways to fill loneliness and fear with friendship. "This is the spirit I want to understand," Lyra said, "the spirit of never giving up." Sam smiled. "You're starting to see it." Their journey continued to a school, where children learned and played. Teachers encouraged them to ask questions and dream big. Lyra saw how knowledge could fill empty minds with curiosity and confidence. She spent time listening to the children's laughter, feeling their joy and hope for the future. As the day passed, Lyra felt herself changing. The ideas of filling were no longer just words or actions. They were alive inside her, filling parts of her heart that she didn't know were empty. But the true test came when Sam brought her to a place called the community center. The building was old but strong, and inside, people were preparing for a big event. It was a meeting for neighbors to share ideas, solve problems, and support each other. Lyra watched as people from all walks of life worked together. Some cooked food, others cleaned, and many talked and listened. It was noisy and busy but full of energy and care. Sam turned to Lyra. "This is how humans fill social gaps. They come together, even when they don't have to. They choose to help." Lyra looked around, feeling overwhelmed but inspired. She saw the power of unity, the way humans could fill emptiness with connection and purpose. Suddenly, a loud crash interrupted the meeting. A young boy had fallen, hurting his leg badly. People rushed to help, calming the child and calling for medical aid. Lyra watched in awe as strangers became heroes in a moment. They filled the boy's pain with care and comfort, showing courage and kindness. She felt a shaking inside, not from fear but from understanding. This was what she had been searching for, the human way of filling. That night, Lyra sat with Sam under the stars. She was quiet, her mind full of new thoughts. "Sam," she said softly, "your people are incredible. You fill not only with things, but with heart. I want to learn more. I want my people to have this strength." Sam looked at her thoughtfully. "It's not easy. Humans make mistakes too. But we keep trying." Lyra smiled. "Then I will try too." The stars above seemed brighter than before, as if the universe was watching their promise. Tomorrow, their journey would continue. But tonight, Lyra dreamed of a world where filling was more than a word. It was a way of life. The days passed quickly, but Lyra's mind was always full of questions. She watched humans closely, trying to understand the strength that let them keep going through hard times. She admired how people could come together, how they could fill what was missing, not just in buildings or machines, but in hearts and minds. But one night, as she looked up at the stars from Sam's small rooftop garden, Lyra's face grew serious. "Sam," she said quietly, "I want to show you something. Something important." Sam looked at her with concern. "What is it?" Lyra took a deep breath. "It is about my home. My people." She told Sam about her world, a planet far from Earth. It was once full of life and light, with beautiful cities and strong communities. But over time, something changed. The people began to drift apart. Their society became fragile, and small problems grew into big ones. They did not have the strength to fill the empty spaces between them. "Without this strength, my world is breaking," Lyra said, her voice trembling. "I have come here to learn, but now I realize that we need help." Sam listened carefully. "What kind of help?" "We have a crisis," Lyra explained. "Our social bonds are weak. When disaster strikes, there is no one to support each other. Our leaders are lost, and fear fills the hearts of many. We cannot rebuild alone." Sam's eyes softened with understanding. "That sounds hard, but maybe humans can help." Lyra nodded. "That is why I asked you to come with me." The next morning, Sam packed his tools and supplies. Together, they boarded Lyra's small ship and set off for her homeworld. The journey was long, but Lyra's hope grew stronger with each passing moment. When they arrived, the view was both beautiful and heartbreaking. The planet was covered in great cities, but many were damaged or abandoned. The air was thick with dust, and the silence was heavy. Lyra's people welcomed them cautiously. Some were hopeful, others skeptical, but all were watching, waiting. Sam saw the fear in their eyes. He knew that words alone would not fix this. They needed action. The first test came quickly. A powerful storm threatened a small village near the coast. The people had no plan or tools to protect themselves. Sam and Lyra organized a team. Together with the villagers, they built barriers to slow the flood and cleared paths to safety. It was hard work, but the people learned to trust each other and to fill the gaps in their skills and knowledge. As the storm passed, the village stood strong. People cheered and hugged, grateful for their safety. Lyra smiled, but she knew the real challenge was still ahead. Over the next days, Sam helped Lyra teach her people how to work together. He showed them simple ways to communicate, share resources, and support those in need. He reminded them that filling was not just about fixing things, it was about caring. Slowly, the communities began to change. Old rivalries softened, and new friendships formed. The people started to believe in themselves again. But one night, a group of leaders gathered in secret. They feared change and wanted to keep power for themselves. They whispered of stopping Lyra and Sam. Lyra learned of their plans. Her heart sank. She knew that the old fears and divisions were strong. "We must show them the true power of filling," she told Sam. "We cannot give up." Sam nodded. "Then let's prepare." Together, they planned a meeting where everyone, leaders and people, would come together to talk openly. It was risky, but necessary. The day of the meeting arrived. The hall was filled with tension. Some leaders spoke harshly, warning against new ideas. But Lyra and Sam listened calmly. Then, Lyra shared stories of Earth, how humans had faced wars, disasters, and losses, but still found ways to rebuild by filling the gaps in their society. She spoke of hope, courage, and trust. Her words touched many hearts. Slowly, the room grew quieter. People began to speak honestly, sharing their fears and hopes. By the end of the meeting, a new understanding was born. The leaders agreed to work with the people, to build a future together. Lyra felt a shaking inside. Not fear, but hope. The next morning, as the sun rose over the planet, Lyra and Sam looked out over the city. For the first time in a long while, the streets were filled with people working side by side. Lyra turned to Sam. "You have taught us something precious. You showed us how to fill, not just with things, but with heart. Sam smiled. Your people have the strength inside. You only needed to believe it. Lyra's eyes sparkled with tears. Thank you, Sam. You came to learn from us, but I think we have learned from each other. The journey was far from over, but a new chapter had begun. Together they had faced the challenge and found a way to fill the void. And for Lyra, that was the greatest gift of all. The days following the meeting were filled with new energy. Lyra's homeworld, once silent and still, began to hum with life again. People moved through the streets with purpose. Families helped rebuild homes, neighbors shared food, and children laughed as they played in parks that were being repaired. Lyra watched all of this with hope in her heart. But she also knew that real change was not easy. It required more than fixing buildings or sharing supplies. It required transforming the way people thought and felt. Sam stayed by her side, guiding her people with patience and kindness. Together, they worked to teach the alien culture the human way of filling, a way of standing strong even when the future seemed uncertain. One morning, Lyra gathered a group of villagers in the town square. Today, she said, we will learn how to fill not only the empty spaces around us, but the empty spaces inside us. The villagers looked at her, curious but unsure. Lyra continued, when humans face hard times, they don't just fix the outside world. They also find strength inside themselves. They learn to be brave, to trust others, and to keep hope alive. She asked the group to share stories of times when they had felt afraid or alone. At first, the villagers were quiet. But slowly hands rose and voices spoke softly. One by one, they told their stories of loss and fear, but also of courage and kindness. Lyra listened carefully, her heart growing full. Sam smiled. This is how humans fill. Their hearts fill with courage and hope, and that strength spreads to others. Over the weeks, Lyra and Sam led exercises that helped people build trust. They taught them to listen without judgment, to offer help without expecting reward, and to celebrate small successes. One day, a young woman named Tira approached Lyra. She had been quiet and distant before, but now seemed changed. Lyra, Tira said, I used to feel weak and alone, but now I feel stronger because of you and Sam. I want to help others feel this way too. Lyra smiled warmly. That is the true power of filling. When one person is strong, they can help many others. Tira nodded. I will do my best. As the weeks turned into months, the planet transformed. Broken buildings were repaired, gardens bloomed again, and music filled the air. But more importantly, the people's hearts healed. Lyra noticed that the shaking she had felt before, the shaking inside herself, was now different. It was no longer fear or doubt. It was the energy of growth and change. One evening, while walking through the city, Lyra stopped to watch a group of children playing. Their laughter was bright and free. It reminded her of Earth and of the hope she carried. Sam joined her quietly. You've done something amazing here, Lyra. She looked at him, eyes shining. We have done it together. But just as things seemed peaceful, a message arrived. A distant part of the planet was in danger. A community hit by a sudden earthquake. Buildings had fallen, and many people were trapped. Lyra's heart raced. This was the moment to test everything they had learned. She gathered a team of volunteers, including Tira, and prepared to travel to the damaged area. Sam checked the supplies and equipment carefully. We must show that we can fill even in the hardest moments, Lyra said firmly. The journey was difficult. Roads were cracked and dust filled the air. When they arrived, the scene was heartbreaking. Homes were destroyed and people were scared and injured. Lyra and the team worked quickly. They comforted the frightened, helped the wounded, and organized rescue efforts. But beyond the physical work, Lyra focused on filling the emotional gaps. She spoke with the leaders and families, encouraging them to trust each other and to believe in their strength. She reminded them of the stories from the town square, that even in fear, courage could grow. Slowly, hope began to return. People who had been silent started to speak. Those who had been afraid reached out to help. Tira took charge of a group, showing patience and care. Her confidence inspired others. Day by day, the community healed, not just the buildings, but the hearts. One night, after a long day of work, Lyra sat alone by a small fire. The shaking inside her returned, but this time, it was a shaking of change, like a seed growing beneath the soil, ready to bloom. She thought about Earth, about Sam, and about the journey so far. She knew that true filling was not just about fixing things. It was about transformation. The next morning, she gathered the community together. "We have faced a great challenge," she said, "and we have filled the emptiness with courage, trust, and hope." The people cheered, their faces bright with pride. Lyra smiled, feeling the shaking settle into a steady strength. She was no longer just a visitor learning from humans. She was becoming a leader who could bring their way of filling to her own people. As the sun rose, casting warm light over the healing city, Lyra understood the true meaning of filling. It was the power to change, to grow, and to bring light even in the darkest times. And with that power, her world could shine once again. The bright morning sun warmed the recovering city as Lyra stood at the top of a small hill overlooking the town square. Around her, the people of her world moved with purpose and joy. Streets once empty and broken now bustled with life. Flowers bloomed where rubble had been cleared. Children's laughter echoed through the air. Lyra felt a deep sense of peace, but she knew this was only the beginning. The true challenge was to build new foundations, strong and lasting, that would hold even when hard times came again. Sam stood beside her, watching the scene with a smile. "You did all this, Lyra," he said. "Your people have found their strength." Lyra looked at him gratefully. "No, Sam. We did this together. Your lessons helped us find what was already inside." Sam nodded. "Sometimes people just need a reminder of their own power." The people gathered below were celebrating a festival. A new tradition started to honor their journey. They danced, sang, and shared food, filling the city with happiness. Lyra walked through the crowd, greeting old friends and new faces. Many came to thank her and Sam, but she quickly reminded them that the real credit belonged to everyone who had worked hard and believed in change. As the day went on, Lyra found a quiet spot near a fountain. She sat and thought about everything that had happened. From her first arrival on Earth to the challenges on her own planet, the journey had been long and difficult, but it had also been full of hope. Her thoughts were interrupted by Tira, the young woman who had grown so much. "Lyra," Tira said softly, "I wanted to thank you. You showed me how to find strength in myself. I want to keep helping our people grow." Lyra smiled warmly. "You already are, Tira. Your courage inspires everyone." Tira looked toward the horizon. "What will happen next?" Lyra took a deep breath. "We will build on what we have started. We will teach our children to fill their world with kindness, courage, and trust. And we will always remember that true strength comes from helping each other." Suddenly, a messenger arrived with news from the outer regions of the planet. A new community had heard of their success and wanted help. They were struggling with old fears and divisions. Lyra stood up, feeling the familiar stir inside her, the shaking of change. "We have work to do," she said. Sam joined her. "Are you ready?" Lyra nodded firmly. "I am. And this time we will not be alone." Together, they prepared to travel again. But this time, Lyra felt different. She was no longer just a learner or visitor. She was a leader, one who understood that filling was not a one-time act but a way of life. As they boarded the ship, Lyra looked back at the city below. It was a symbol of hope and new beginnings. She knew the road ahead would have challenges, but she was ready. The ship lifted off smoothly, carrying Lyra, Sam, and a team of volunteers into the sky. The stars stretched out before them like a promise. Lyra thought about the journey from Earth to her homeworld and beyond. She remembered the kindness of strangers, the power of stories, and the strength of hope. In that moment, she understood something deeply true. No matter how far apart worlds might be, the heart of humanity, the will to fill what is empty, was universal. And with that thought, Lyra smiled. She was ready to bring light to the darkest places, one step at a time. The universe was wide, full of mysteries and challenges, but it was also full of people who could fill the void with courage, love, and hope. And that was a future worth fighting for.